that that's the one who is doing quantitative research can select from. There are a lot of statistics can select from. However, these statistical tools are not selected just because we want to select them, but they are selected because some things in the research are doing permit us to select. And that is a basic principle we need to appreciate. We are able to select a particular statistics because the work we are doing allow us to select. Meaning that there are some things in the work that are doing that are important. Nobody gave them to us. We selected them. The one who is conducting the investigation or the research chose to select those things. And hence, you are restricted by the things you have selected. My next point is that there are also descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. And before you select any or one of them, think that the ingredients you have in your work permit you to select them. But what are these things that govern what we select? It's the kind of research question you have raised and want to answer. The hypothesis you have also raised and want to test. These govern what tools are take. The next thing is that when you have the research question or the hypothesis, there's something in it which you look at. So before I address that, I have this slide with some pages which we can use for. So we managed to use that. I know my voice faints down, but I'm managing to resolve it. Wait for this. It's not internet, it's not editing. So I'll try to resolve it. I'll try. I hope it's better now.
Yes, Doc.
I can hear you better. Okay, so thanks. So before we study anything in relation to what we interpret, I want us to look at this key thing, this thing, variables, variables. When you are writing the research question hypothesis, you may not put them much of the constituency. But whenever you reach where you are doing your statistics, it becomes a key. So separately have I seen people who say they are analyzing the test their videos. So indeed the data we have is from an instrument, but what we need to look at is the variables that we find in the research question and the hypothesis. So even if you are coming to interpret your results, you might have seen your variables well, and you might have used them very well. But interpret the result. So today I want to use this opportunity to first take us through this, so that another time I can use them very well. So a definition. Okay, the definition say that it changes depending on the context. But our context either value statistics and statistics, or value statistics, or the statistics. We'll still have a variable that we want to consider. So we'll not go anywhere, we'll still stay, still stay, and then we'll look for a variable to you. What is your variable? We'll look for that. So in 2 minutes, look for it, and let's, what is your variable? Okay. What would be your variable? Your variable. You put out our go, then we'll say ideas together. Looking for a response. I think this one's too much for us to contribute. Can you hear me? From John, a variable is a characteristic that can be measured. Thus, we take it from there. That's a characteristic that can be measured. So, if you are writing your title, your research question, your hypothesis, there are some characteristics and measure which are seen. There are some characteristics and measure. I have here that these statistics a variable is a characteristic of interest. What is interest and you want to study in your investigations may not be interest to me. What you want to measure may not be what I want to measure. What you want to record may not be what I want to record. So something that you are interested in becomes your variable. So the one using the statistical is that and define them very well before going out there to measure. Yeah. If you are able to see what you are interested in, you can. So if I'm working in a certain research. Maybe I want to consider the height of some people, marital status of some people, the number of people in the family, blood pressure, weight, age, qualities, quality of the products. These are variables because are interested in what analyze, what measure them. And you need to know this, see them in your work. And they can help you a lot. They take some form of identity, some form of identity. And the one doing the research is know the identity of the backgrounds. It can be quantitative, it can be quantitative. The quantitative simply means that they are in form of quantity. And the qualitative simply means that they look categorical. They are. So I gave an example that some people have some app on their phone when you walk about steps. Just so that you have 1,000 steps. So This one is quantitative. Some people are interested in checking their blood pressure. They check and then the recordings or the beats 120 or slash 8. This is once again quantitative. The qualitative variable, which most instances is called categorical, it's just static to measure marital status, police measure the person perceived academic competence. These ones are also categorical. Can be married, single, divorced, separated. These are categories. They are not necessarily amounts or quantities. They are categories. Either you are married, you are single, you are divorced, or separated. You don't need a number. But either you're a science educator, a nurse, a midwife, a therapist, a dietitian. It's just a category. And this, in your work, you should see them. But when you're doing your interpretation, do the things out of them about. Now I have this question for you. So what are the variables in these questions or hypotheses? Adjustment. But what it? You have not read one. It means that you go and look for some and read and see if you can see variables there. If you do not see variable in it, this is not a good question or hypothesis. So our number today is around 20. So let's have about 5 minutes. And let's see if we can get more than one question, more than one hypothesis. And see the variables there. Try more than one article and look for them. What you can consider a variable. But these are the things that we're interpretations around, because that is what the statistics are about. So let me proceed. Go and then now.
On the platform. I've opened this thing. Okay. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Doctor.
Okay. I think there was no member in group 3, so that's okay by us. So group 1, my members there were Abubakar, Felix, and somebody's
Yes,
using my iPhone. I don't know if it's Dr. Siedu. Philemon, Philomena, and then Sandra. So did you see some research questions or hypotheses? What the title of the work you saw? Just read the research question or hypothesis and tell me the variables there.
Doctor. So after our discussion, we all concluded by presenting on one topic called the factors that influence the patronage of family planning service among women within their reproductive age.
Okay.
So this our topic.
Mhm.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. So where are the research questions and where are the variables?
So the research, our variables are the attitude of healthcare providers is one of our variables, and also the age. We pick the age to be also be one of our variables.
Now I want you to read the research question and pick from it.
Okay. Hello, group 1 members. Let's get involved. You all discuss it, so let's get involved.
So where is the research question you pick the variables from? That's what I want to hear.
Okay.
All right, look for the research question and come back. Group 2, Evans, George, Patience, and Sandra. Sabina, sorry. So Evans, Patience, Sabina, George.
No, please. I think I didn't even get the question because the moment I joined, I was put in a group, so I didn't get a question. I kept asking the members, and nobody was saying anything.
Okay, I think now let's move to group 4. That's all right.
Thank you.
But my question is that you look for research questions, and I want us to see variables in them, or the statistics you may run and the interpretation thereof are based on these variables.
Hello.
That is what the software will be using to give you the response. So you should know what they are about.
Hello, Doc.
Oh, yes, Felix.
Group 1, can we come back again?
Wait for me, I'll come.
Okay.
Group 4, Edem, Jabiru, and then Anna.
Yo, Doc, thank
Yeah.
you. Our group, we had some network challenges. So I think we ended up doing some individual works because of the network challenge. So I'm
No
sure
problem. Edem, give me
I
your
would read
point.
what I found out, and then probably my colleagues will also add up.
Okay.
So I had an article titled Burnout Syndrome, Job Satisfaction and Associated Factors Among Primary Healthcare Doctors in
Okay.
Erzurum, Turkey. So
Okay.
when I perused, I came to the introduction where I saw that the aim of the study was to determine burnout and job satisfaction levels and associated factors among the general practitioners in that province.
Okay.
So from what we have discussed, I think that burnout, job satisfaction are part of the variables. And then the factors you look at, when I went through the discussion and the result and discussion, I realized that they had looked at age group, whether the person is a professional and all of those things. So they looked at the marital status and all of those things are the factors. And
Adjust small. Your microphone seemed to be. Or you have finished. Okay. I think maybe Adam is having a network challenge. All right. I think you have done well. However,
Yeah, Doc.
yeah, I'll come.
Okay.
However, you couldn't give me a research question or hypothesis, but you had the purpose all right there, and that is good. By the purpose, you have been able to see 1 or 2 or 3 variables. That is good. Okay. Are you in the one who wanted to speak? The name escaped me, but it was typing car.
Yes. I'm in Adam's group.
Okay.
I also went off momentarily. I wanted to ask whether you were asking for our research. In fact, we've gone through 2 or 3 of it, but we settled on one from the group to relate it to you, and then we will discuss it.
Okay.
One which was job satisfaction and burnout syndrome among intensive care unit nurses.
Yes.
And then
It's the one
the
that he
variable.
spoke about.
Say again.
That is the one that he was presenting.
Okay. So maybe from the observation of the research question, and the variable to be teased out could be emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and perceived lack of personal fulfillment.
Okay.
Could be variables that we can anchor down to solve the problem.
Okay. Did you read of any research question or hypothesis in it?
No, the network, we couldn't go to that extent, but
Okay.
if there was enough time, we would have gotten to that limit too.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Group 5, I have Emily there, Mary, and then Sarah. Yeah. I mentioned Emily, Mary, and then Sarah. If you also find out something.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
Please, I actually joined the meeting late, so I was added directly.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
That's all right. Okay, for those who came in late, though today we delayed, but yes, the first group, you said you are back with something. Let me hear what you have for me before I move on.
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
Yeah, we were discussing about the factors that influence the patronage of family planning service among women within their reproductive age.
Yes.
So our research questions was based on was about what cultural related factors influence the patronage for family planning service among women within reproductive age, and also what social demographical factors. What social demographical factors also influence the patronage of family planning service among women within the reproductive age. We also speak about the health facility related factors. What health related facility factors will they also affect the patronage of family planning services? So under the variables, our variables are social demographical factor, which is age, sex, income, and other things. And also about other ones are also the healthcare related factors are also one of our variables.
Okay.
And also the social cultural factors, such as the cultural beliefs of some of the regions, also says as some variables, examples of our variables. So these are our variables and also the research questions that we set.
Okay. All right. So at least those who joined late, today's presentation is on interpretation of quantitative results. But this is how I want us to start. That whatever the statistical software you're using will bring you, it is able to give you what you have because you have some things you are looking at. And these things, which you are interested in them, are called variables. There are instances you read the title of the thesis, title of the published article, title of the conference paper. You will see the variables, and you should be able to see there. It's the same variables we use to craft the research questions or the hypothesis. So whenever you are analyzing the data you have collected with the instrument, you consider this variable because they tell you which statistical tool is or are the most appropriate tools to use. So you need to know them. And when you have an output and you are talking about what this output stands for, it's still the variables you are talking about in order to test the hypothesis or to answer the research question. And that is why I wanted us today to first have a picture of variables, the characteristics that the researcher is interested in, want to measure, want to record. Good. And then I move on further to say that there are two types. It can be quantitative, which is normally numerical, or qualitative, which is normally categorical. I gave examples there. But I wanted us to first have an experience that the articles that I read, can I see these variables there? The articles that I read, do I see variables there? Some of you, the one that you may have chance on, may not have a categorically stated research question, hypothesis, in the introduction and other things. But as one of the other fellows group read initially, the purpose and the title may guide you. If not, when you move to where the results have been presented, the results will be presented using the variables as major component. And it was something that I wanted you to experience, to see them. Some of you who gave us some points, you did well, and congrats. My challenge was only when a factor is called a variable. That's all. When you call a factor a variable, I was asking myself, is it a numerical variable or a categorical variable? Is it a quantitative variable or a qualitative variable? How would the instrument be structured to measure these factors? Okay. So my point is, the factors you are even talking about is a certain variable. It's a certain variable that they are looking for, which may be for us as a beginner, we only saw factors. If not, the factor is a certain variable which they are looking for. The one who gave social demographic factors, the age and others, so the social demographic factors was a variable, but when they went into the results presentation, those demographics were presented for we to see which variables are there. Okay. The next one is that if all members were active enough, you would have done for me is to have categorized them. The variables I saw and I read, is it quantitative or qualitative? Is it numerical or categorical? These are important. No, number one, we are discussing the issues of statistics and its output and interpretation. It's not about the giant thing you see. It's not about the beautiful name of the statistical tools. It's about what you are manipulating and what you want to communicate to your readers, that this is what I have seen. They all play around the variables, and hence one needs to understand and appreciate them. One needs to understand and appreciate them. So let me move on small before time catches up with us. Okay. So I have here types of variable. I've mentioned the quantitative ones. People go further to categorize them into discrete and continuous. Into discrete and continuous. The discrete means that they are countable. The continuous means that they can't be counted. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 200. But within, if it is continuous, between 1 and 2, there are other values there. You can have 1.001, 1.002, 1.0, anything, and that makes it continuous. Within the two extremes, there are other values. But for the discrete, within the extremes, there are none. It is this picture you need to have, so that if I pick this numerical data and I'm using it, do I have fixed points, countable ones, or they are not? So I gave some explanation here that the variables can only take on specific values that you cannot subdivide. You cannot have 1.001, 1.002. No. Frequently, discrete data are values that you count. Consequently, are non-negative integers. Good. But put all this grammar aside. The thing is, those you can easily count. But it's difficult dividing them. For example, we go to a maternity ward, all right, in a municipal hospital, in a community health facility, okay, either in a teaching hospital, wherever you go to and say you want to know the number of births delivered in a day, they are countable. Even a week, they are countable. Even a month, they are countable. Even 3 months, they are. 6 months, they are. A year, they are. We can count them and say they are of this number. In that case, this is a discrete one. So if you have this, your analysis is different, your interpretation is different. Whatever you have, your analysis is different, your interpretation is different. If you don't know the nature, you don't know which statistical tool you use, you don't know how you should interpret it. Okay? So you can't say that the number of childbirth in that facility is 8.12. A mean. No, you can't. So how would you interpret this? But you can say that it's about 50%. They are 100. Compared to last year, it has increased by 2%. You can easily see this. So the interpretation becomes easier for you to do if it is discrete. If it is continuous, as I've said, it can assume any value. It can be meaningfully divided into smaller parts, such as fractions and decimals. Theoretically, continuous data have infinite value between any two values. For example, when we say we are taking vitals, I hope I had it right. Vitals. You go to clinic, you go to hospital, at the OPD session, they say they want to take your vitals. You will bring some things. If you have not been sick to go there, get sick and go there, they will definitely take your vitals. If you're a midwife, you're a nurse, you have been taking people's vitals, but they have not taken yours. Unless you get sick or you get pregnant and you go there, they will take. Okay. So these things can vary from person to person, from person to person. You can have fractions in there, you can have that. They take height, they take temperature. It can vary. It can vary. It can be subdivided, it can do this. In such case, we say what we have is continuous. Those of us who are teaching in the university, in the schools and colleges, okay, we conduct tests, give tests to people. And the test we have given, we can decide to say that 50% pass, 50% fail, 75% fail, 25% pass. Normally, I like high rate of failing. That is what is scary, so that we can all wake up. If they all pass, normally we don't wake up and see what is wrong with the system. You can say this. So as you can say that they are all good students based on maybe a certain mean you have calculated. It gives a different interpretation. The score was over 100. So the average, the center of the distribution was calculated to be 78.5. The standard deviation was 10.2. Good. So we can say, then the students, they did well because the spread around the center is 78.2 minus 10 or plus 10. And that is a good score. The range is good. They are closer. So as if I have had 78.2, but my standard deviation is 21.8. This is a huge standard deviation. So if I'm interpreting this continuous thing, it will tell me that though the average score is 78.2, but most of the scores within this distribution are far or widely spread from the center. It gives you a good interpretation of it. So you see that if you have discussed your thing by 50%, 70% pass, all these details are gone. We don't know. And that's the mistake people normally make. We say that, oh, this year's performance is better. Maybe we are discussing it as if it is discrete instead of continuous. But if we were to be discussing it as continuous, we will not go for that choice of word. It's better. Unless we have done a certain statistical output that permits us to say that. If you have questions, ask. If not, I move on further. Types of quantitative variables. Statisticians have various methods for categorizing data by types of information they obtain. So the numerical one, which is the quantitative that we can see as categorical, the discrete, and then continuous, can further be categorized The qualitative data, which we see as categorical, can further be categorized. And once again, you need to move on to the next level of categorization. It can be categorized into nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. These are all skills, so I added the name to it, skills. All right. Those who are good at using the SPSS, the SPSS permit you to select these ones for easy interpretation. But what are they? Simply the nominal is categorical. So the sex of persons in the outpatient unit, we can decide to check a male and female. If you call it gender, a male and female. That's all. It becomes a typical categorical. Any assigned value to it had no implication. Good. But the next level, which is higher on the scale, is the ordinal. Here, all the attributes of nominal are here. But the values have an implication. It's rank. So if you say somebody had a first class, somebody had a second class upper, there is a difference. We cannot say they all did well. If they all did well, we will not categorize them. The upper, compared to the first class will be better than the upper. So as if you say the number of children somebody is having, somebody's number of children can be higher than the other. We cannot just gross ourselves and say, oh, they all have children. We may begin to say this one have 5, this one have this one have that. If you say you're looking at experience of working in a particular facility, you can say somebody is a novice, somebody is experienced. That one become an ordinary skill that you want to interpret. So the nominal, the ordinal can all be seen in an interval. So meaning that interval is higher. But here, when you get 0, doesn't mean that it is 0. But if it were to be the ratio, 0 is 0. Look at my picture here. Types of variables. I said first you can categorize them into qualitative and quantitative. That's categorical and numerical. Under them you can have the nominal, the ordinal, interval, and ratio. So far, they are the ones I've spoken about. If you have questions, ask before we move on. Okay. Interestingly, there's no question. All right. But the other side of these variables that are important and we can't gloss over them is dependent and independent variable. A simple understanding is that the independent is not influence, but the dependent is influenced by the independent. In a typical experimental research, we manipulate the independent to see its effect on the dependent. So as you move on looking at your research questions, hypothesis, if it is ordinal, nominal, interval, ratio, we move the interpretation further to the angle of dependent and independent variables. So our last activity for today is this one. Now we go back to the research questions you saw and you study them once again. When you finish studying them, identify the variables using these categories. So you come back telling me that this one I read, this was the dependent there, that was the independent there. Most of the statistics, the interpretation is based on your ability to see your dependent and independent variable, because the statistical tool uses them to give you the outputs. If you have a question, ask before you go. If not, go and come. All right, then let's go and come. I want to recreate the groups because of new members being here. People fall too early, but we can't complain. So let's move on and come. Enjoy yourself. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. It has been 15 minutes, and I hope you were able to have read through something and discuss very well. So my group one members are Mary, Mosaic. I don't know if I had it right. There's Sandra. Somebody just fell off. So your point, if you can pick one and try to place the variables in their perspective.
Okay, good evening, Doug.
Good evening, Mary.
Doug, we tried to come out with something, even though time beat us because we couldn't get in touch with the article earlier. But then
Okay.
we happened to settle on midwives' experience with documentation practices
Okay.
of maternal health records.
Okay.
And the questions were, what are the midwives' midwife's experience of the required structures necessary for midwifery documentation practice. That is the first question. The second question was, what are the essential processes required in midwifery documentation practice among midwives? And the last one, what are the expected experience outcome of midwifery documentation practice? These are the variables we had from the question: experience, documentation, midwives, outcome. So we considered experience as a qualitative, we considered experience as a qualitative variable.
Okay.
Documentation too as qualitative variable.
Okay.
Midwives, we can quantify midwives, number of midwives. We classify them as qualitative variable. And then the outcome too as qualitative variable. We were left with putting them into, okay, so we selected experience. Yes, we were left with grouping them into which of them is dependent and independent variable. And unfortunately, that is where we ended. But I was in alone with Madam Sandra. I don't know whether she would like to add some, but that is where we ended.
Okay. Yes, Sandra, if you have something to add.
Yes, doctor, please. So as Madam Mary said, we wanted to classify again the variables being identified into whether they are DV, dependent variable or independent variable.
Okay.
So we're discussing that experience, for example, can be IV because we can manipulate.
Okay.
I don't know whether we are correct anyway. And
okay.
then we said documentation. Documentation would be DV.
Okay.
Yes, please. That's what we've got into, please.
All right. All right. Some parts I agree. Some parts I do not agree. On the grounds that some variables can take more than one identity. They can take more. So the documentation. You said documentation is qualitative. That's categorical. Whether there was or not. But an instrument could have been designed to measure documentation as a numerical. So it can be something else, but for now it goes. Experience. I hope it was in terms of age. And the way the research question read tells me that experience seemed to be a continuous. The way the research question read. But I'm happy you saw it, because if not, you have almost categorized all your variables as categorical, except one of them you mentioned, I've forgotten.
Midwives, please.
Yes, the midwives is what you wanted to change, but that was where I was surprised. I felt that one should have been straight away categorical. It should have been straight away categorical, but the experience and the documentation is where I'm looking at it, that they can look at it more than calling it categorical, except when the documentation is being there, either it is there or not, to 0 or 1. But if they have an instrument that is used to measure presence or absence of documentation, it can go more than a categorical. Some people can consider it as ordinal, so it can go a bit higher of the categories. But that's a good job done. There was an explanation you tried giving to, yes, outcome. Yes, the outcome, I think that one to you place it as qualitative. I feel that one should have gone to quantitative. Because the outcome can be more than one, more than two. It can even be seen as a continuous. It depends on how the instrument is designed. Okay, so as after everything, maybe the researcher can also decide to categorize the outcome based on a certain skill the person may be having to permit the use of a certain statistical tool and interpretation. Okay. Now let me go to group 2 where Edem, Gabriel, and then Sabina.
Doc.
Yes, Edem.
So we looked at an article titled Job Satisfaction, Burnout, Job Satisfaction and Associated Factors.
Okay.
Then the aim of the study so we deduced that burnout and job satisfaction levels are dependent variables.
Okay.
At the same time, the burnout, depending on how the researcher interpreted it, it can also be either a nominal data or categorical data if he wants to place it in want to rank the levels of burnout. But from the objective, you realize that the job satisfaction, he has already added levels, which place it under ordinals. Then the factor he considered were age, marital status, number of years of experience, and work environment. So those become the independent variables.
Yeah.
The sex is a nominal data because we only have, well, except in an abnormalities, but we only have two categories, which is either male or female.
Those abnormalities doesn't occur in Ghana. We only have
So depending on, although it's nominal, sex marital status will a play. We have married, single. I think I'm seeing divorce, so it will be more of categorical.
Okay.
Then the years of experience is numerical data, which I think could be continuous because you can have maybe 1 year, 2 months, 3 days, and so on and so forth.
Okay. So if they themselves did not categorize it, then I agree with your point.
I think it was not categorized. He ranged it like 7 to 11. It was in a range form. So
and that one is categories.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That one means that the person has given them categories. Category 1 is 7 to this, category 2 is this. But if he had allowed it to stay, I have 10 years of experience. I have 10 years, 3 months of experience. I have 15 years working here. That one would, if it has stayed like that and the analysis had been done with respect to that, it could have been a continuous. But as long as the person has categories now, it becomes a categorical data. And the interpretation is based on the categories. Let's move on, Eden.
So looking at it, I realized that the writer decided to look at the relationship between the factors, which are the sex, male and female, work conditions, marital status, and number of years of experience, trying to juxtapose it whether it has some relationship on job satisfaction and burnout.
Okay.
The work environment, I think it's qualitative.
Okay.
It's qualitative because what I'm seeing here, it's qualitative, and I think I'm sure it will be ordinary because I'm seeing adequate, partially adequate, and inadequate. So
I agree with you. If that is how
yeah,
it was measured,
yes, please.
I agree with you. Okay,
So this is what we
okay,
did.
that's a good job done. At least
Thank you.
to group like what group 2 gave us, group 1 gave us, you have also added to it. Now let me go to group 3. Abubakar, Evans, and then Sarah.
Thank you, Prof. We looked at an article with the title "Challenges in the Implementation of the Chief's Policy." That's the community-based health planning services in the perspective, from the perspective of nurses and midwives.
Okay.
Good. So the objectives they sought to find out the experiences of these nurses and midwives in these various chiefs compounds.
Okay.
So under experience, yes, we can talk of the number of years they've worked there, and then be a continuous variable. And then look at what they face, the actual life they live there, what they face, which we can talk of qualitative variable over there. And then they also sought to find out how they want to find that another objective is the challenges itself. What are the challenges they face?
Okay.
So looking at before you know the challenges, they'll try to look at the categories of nurse and midwives working in this chief's compound. So the categories, you can look at a community health nurse, a senior community health nurse, a principal community health nurse, enrolled nurse, senior enrolled nurse, principal enrolled nurse. Then you can go to the staff nurse, staff midwife, the nursing officer, and all those stuff. So those data too can be classified nominal, ordinal, sorry. Because if you look at a community health nurse to a senior community health nurse, you are talking of in a certain order.
Yeah, but unless they define it, unless they define that what they are looking for, who you are has an influence on it. But if not, it can still remain on the nominal scale.
Okay.
But if they say that they see a senior this as better on this score than the other, and then that is where they are making the rank imply.
Okay.
Okay, but that's better. There was an aspect you mentioned that it just escaped me. I wanted to query it further.
Okay.
Because of how you place it. But it has gone by. If I remember, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
But that's better. At least you have seen variables there. Did you see a challenge as a variable?
The challenge as a variable, yes.
Okay.
The challenge, they also break it down.
Okay.
In terms of motivation.
Okay.
In terms of language.
Okay.
Access to training.
Okay.
And then access to promotion, all those stuff. So that is how they broke down the
was it a qualitative work or figures were presented?
It was a qualitative.
Qualitative. Because of how you are calling the challenges, signal that it's more of a qualitative work than quantitative.
Yes.
All right. Now let me go to group 3 and ask for something there. Oh yes, group 4. Only one person is left there now, Regina. So if you have something to share. And then group 5, my last group, George and then Patience.
Doc, please. Jabiru was part of our group. He made mention of a topic, but his line wasn't clear and we found it difficult to hear from him.
Okay, so maybe we'll wait for a while when he joins. If by the time he returns, we are not off.
Yes, Doc.
Okay. All right. I feel so far so good. At least you can see variables there. But if you check some instances, you could see the variables need to be defined for you to appreciate what is going to be used for. So in a normal thesis or under the research methods, you go to a point we say data processing and analysis. At this point, the researcher is given an opportunity to give meanings to these variables. And that is why the same data collected, somebody used chi-square, somebody used a t-test. The same data collected, another person is using different statistical tool. If you don't take care, on the flip side, you only say the person is wrong. Except when you see how the variables were defined and analyzed. Were defined and analyzed. So if they were clearly defined and you are picking a statistical tool, is what is influencing you to pick a particular statistical tool. So like where we met the age, if there were raw ages, it could have given us a different understanding. Now that they are categorized, it gives us a different understanding. The one who spoke about the community health nurses, if they are categorized, it will give us a different understanding with respect to another. So you can't just say, I am interpreting my results if you do not know these variables very well. If you're unable to place your variables into dependent and independent variables, to see which one is influencing the other and which one is changing with time. If you are able to see them and you know how your research question or hypothesis have placed them together, and then the interpretation becomes easier. The interpretation becomes easier. Remember, it's not always about there's no difference or there is a difference. It's not always about there's a relationship or no relationship. There's more to it, whether the relationship exists or does not exist. And whether you raise a hypothesis or you wrote a research question, there's more to it. But the first and the most important hurdle to jump is your variables. Do you note them and what they stand for? It's where I want to end today, that every research has variables, and these research variables help us to interpret the results that we have. Please, if you have questions, ask. If not, my assignment to you is that go and look carefully and check the variables you have in your work. and how you want to measure them. Is your measurement on the nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, or ratio? When you're able to see that, and then your next level of thinking, which one of them is my dependent and which one of them is my independent? If you're able to do this categorization, and then you can have a smooth say through when you are interpreting the results. This is where I want to end today, except when you have questions. If you have some, you raise. If there are none, we end here. I hope to see you next week to continue. Before I give you output for us to interpret them together, so that it doesn't become that it's the presenter who is telling you that when you see this is that, when you see this is that. Since it is research, it needs to be a bit practical. Because a day is coming, you interpret them, somebody will not be there. If there are issues, raise. If there are none, thanks for joining us. God willing, next week, Thursday, we'll start at 6 prompt, unlike today.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bye.
God bless you.
Amen. Dilali, we go now.